What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for November 9th, 2022. I do apologize for the train whistle in the background. I do have the window open. I just got back from a run, so I'm trying to cool down a little bit. So if you hear the train whistle, I'm not leaving town. It's going through. But big win for the Flyers last night. Carter Hart was out with an illness, so Sandstrom got the start. They beat the St. Louis Blues 5-1. Now I know the Blues had come into the game like on a 7-game losing streak and just not very good right now. But it's good for a young team like this to have their backup goalie come in, get his first win of the season, play fairly well. The offense is score, so I think this is something you can take as a building block moving forward. They just, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the changing coach. Maybe it's whatever mentality. They got the negative vibes out of the locker room. Who knows? But they're currently 7-3-2, so we will take it. And it's like I said, this is the hashtag New Philly. It's a good time to be a Philly fan. Things are looking up for everyone, with the exception of my Temple Owls, but it's still early. But speaking of those Temple Owls, yesterday we had talked about. I want to follow up with something. We had talked about Paul Palmer's 1986 season, and yesterday was the anniversary of his final home game against Boston College, where he did set the school record for touchdowns, and he ended up with 15. And I had mentioned I thought that Bernard Pierce did break that record, so I did the research, and yes, Bernard Pierce in 2009 did have 16 touchdowns, so he broke the record by one. 2 years later, in 2011, was his Heisman campaign, where they had Bernard Pierce. They had why can't I think of it? The billboards throughout the city. There were also SEPTA buses with Bernard Pierce for Heisman. Obviously, he didn't win. I think he ended up getting slightly hurt that year, or something happened where he just didn't quite get where he needed to be. I think he had a couple of good games, or so games, and I forget who won the Heisman that year anyway. But either way, Bernard Pierce did break Paul Palmer's school record for single season touchdowns. Since then, Jahad Thomas also had broken the record. He had 17 in that magical 2015 season. So just wanted to follow up. I did my homework for you guys, but Bernard Pierce is the single season touchdown leader in Temple's football history. So this day in Philly sports history, we're only going back 1 year. This day, November 9th, 2021, the number 4 ranked Villanova Wildcats opened their season with a 91-51 win over Mount St. Mary's. Now, it might not seem like it's kind of that big of a deal, or it's just a random game, but we know that Villanova will go on to win the Big East tournament and go to the Final Four last year before losing to Kansas, who would be the eventual national champion. They had a 30-8 record. Pretty solid year for Jay Wright and the Villanova Wildcats. We also know that it turned out to be Jay Wright's last home opener with the Wildcats, as he retired over the year, or at the end of the year. And who knows what he's doing now, but he had some pretty good seats during the Phillies playoff runs. So life must be pretty well for Mr. Wright. And I will say, as a Temple guy and a huge John Chaney supporter, God rest his soul, I was always a fan of his. As much as I'm not necessarily a fan of Villanova's team, as like I'm going to sit down and actively root for them. Like if they make a run, yeah, I'll root for them as the local team and whatnot. And I know some of the Temple people are going to give me some shit for that. But, I mean, now that I live in the suburbs, I kind of miss me with all that. Oh, they're not a city school. Well, yeah, they're probably closer to downtown than a lot of schools. So we'll give them a pass on that. But I will say I always respected Jay Wright. I thought he was a great coach. I'm glad to see that he never kind of made that jump into the pros, similar to what like Rick Pitino did, Brad Stevens, guys that were good coaches, and he stayed with the same team. And I know that's something that doesn't happen a lot these days. But I like the loyalty. I like the fact that he just, like I said, decided to stay and did what he did there at Villanova. I wish he was at Temple. I would have loved to have seen 3 Final Fours, 2 national champions, or 4 Final Fours and 2 national championships. But it is what it is. So this day, Philly sports history, November 9th, 2021. Villanova opened their season with a 91-51 win over Mount St. Mary's. To all my Temple people out there, please don't take my Temple card. I'm just saying they're close enough to the city. We're all much older now. We're grown. We don't have to have that same narrative. And we'll leave it at that. I do want to get in, and I know we talked a little bit earlier in this podcast about some of the college football, but I do want to get into, as the season progresses, some of the things with the Big Five and how things kind of have changed over the years. But we'll save that for another day. I also wanted to say today was the anniversary, I believe it was 1984, of Dr. J versus Larry Bird getting into a huge fight, I believe at the Garden. I'm not sure, but look up the YouTube clip. Kind of messed up. As a Sixers guy, I'll say it's messed up. Moses Malone had Larry Bird held back, and Dr. J kind of unloaded on him. So it's kind of like a iffy move there. But also as a Sixers fan and that hatred for Boston, it was kind of funny. Larry was a massive shit talker, as everybody knows, legendary. Do a Google search and find out about that. But just wanted to point out today is also this day in Philly history. It was Bird versus Jay 1-on-1. But so Villanova won this day last year. They went to the Final Four. I updated you on Bernard Pierce breaking Paul Palmer's touchdown record at Temple. Go have yourself some Wednesday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.